Stop trying to control everything. It's destroying you. You're exhausted. You feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders. And you know why? Because you're trying to control everything. People. What they think of you. What they say. What they do. You're trying to fix the uncontrollable. And it's tearing you apart inside because of it. And today, I want to set you free from that. This is one of the greatest truths I've learned, and that I now teach as if it were a cry for help for your soul. Let them. Let them think. Let them talk. Let them leave. Let them dislike you. Let them act the way they act. You can't control anyone, and the more you try, the more you lose yourself. We grow up believing we have to please, that we have to avoid conflict, that if people are upset, it must be our fault, that if someone criticizes us, we have to defend ourselves. And that slowly kills us. You're tired because you're trying to be the general manager of other people's lives. And you weren't hired for that position. You wake up tired. You go to sleep anxious. And your day, from beginning to end, feels like an endless exercise in emotional micromanagement. Why? Because you've become the CEO of everyone else's life. You try to predict what others will do, try to control what they feel. You measure every word, every gesture, afraid of the reaction. You're living to control others when you should be building your own freedom. Mel Robbins teaches that one of the greatest sources of stress in our generation is the illusion of control. We confuse emotional responsibility with responsibility over others. And there's a quote she says that has changed lives. If you need to control someone's behavior to feel okay, you've already lost control of your own life. I know what that's like. I spent years trying to fix everyone around me. Trying to keep the peace, keep order, keep appearances. But let me tell you a hard truth I had to swallow through tears. You are not responsible for what people do. You are responsible for what you tolerate and for what you allow to keep affecting you. Once, I was trying to help a friend who was drowning in self-destructive behavior. I'd call, send messages, give advice, worry, cry, and he kept the same. Until one day, the therapist looked at me and said, "He didn't ask for your help, and he doesn't want to change. You're suffering because you want to control his transformation timeline." That hit my ego like fire, but it was also freeing. You're carrying weights that aren't yours. Your mother's pain, your partner's frustration, a coworker's anger, a stranger's judgment on the internet. But here comes the question that will stir you deep inside. Who would you be if you stopped trying to fix others? Who would you be if you started taking care of only yourself? You weren't called to be your family's therapist. You're not anyone's emotional firefighter. You're not the world's moral GPS. You're a human being with limits, with dreams, with desires. And every time you redirect your energy trying to control someone, you abandon the one person who needs you completely, you. I talk about setting others free from you so that you can be free from them. It's not coldness, it's healthy love. It's saying, I see you, but I won't carry you. It's saying, you have the right to be whoever you want, and I have the right not to be part of it. And here comes one of the most powerful ideas Mel teaches. When you stop trying to control others, you begin to reconnect with what really matters. Control over your attention, your energy, your peace. Signs you're being the CEO of other people's lives. Do you relate to any of these? Do you worry more about what others will think than how you feel? Do you try to avoid any kind of conflict, even if that means staying silent? Do you feel emotionally drained after interacting with certain people? Do you feel guilty for saying no? If so, you're not living your life. You're outsourcing your peace. Today, I want you to return those roles. You're not the manager of other people's expectations. You're not the coach of your family's emotional team. You're not anyone's emotional nanny. You are the leader of your own life. And if you're tired, if you're drained, if you feel like you're losing yourself, maybe it's not physical exhaustion, Maybe it's the weight of carrying what was never yours. Acceptance is not giving up. It's choosing your peace over the eternal war of trying to change others. Cut to a wider camera shot. The lighting is soft. The speech begins calmly. You think accepting is losing. You think accepting is saying, okay, to what hurts you. That it means settling. But let me tell you something that Mel Robbins teaches powerfully. Acceptance is not defeat. Acceptance is sovereignty. It's you finally stopping the fight against battles that only exist in your head. You're there, with insomnia, ruminating over conversations that never happened, creating arguments in your mind, trying to predict the next disappointment. And all of this, why? Because you think that if you accept it, you're giving up something. But acceptance, as Mel Robbins masterfully explains, is the opposite of that. Acceptance is you taking the lead over your emotional energy. Acceptance is saying, I see what's happening, I don't agree, but I choose not to let this take over my internal state. That is power. Mel Robbins makes it very clear. Acceptance is not submission, it is liberation. Resignation is, this is just how it is. I can't do anything. I'm a victim. Acceptance is, this is how it is. And because I recognize that, I can decide what to do about it. Feel the difference? A woman wrote to me saying, my father will never change. He always criticizes me, belittles me, provokes me. And every time I try to talk, he attacks me. I've tried everything. Let him be who he wants to be. You don't need to change your father. You just need to stop trying to win his love by fighting who he is. Peace comes when you accept that some people only know how to love the way they can. And sometimes, it's not the way you deserve, and that's okay. Because you can choose to leave the war without losing the love. You only lose the suffering. What are you trying to change that deep down you already know you won't change? A person? A situation? A cycle? Maybe it's time to stop pushing the door that won't open. Maybe it's time to accept. Because, as Mel Robbins clearly reminds us in her book, acceptance is the most radical act of self-care. It's when you choose yourself, even when the world tells you to keep trying. Most people think acceptance is passive, but Mel Robbins teaches the opposite. Acceptance is an active choice. It's you saying, I see this person as they are, not as I wish they were. I accept that I have no control. I accept that maybe I'll never get the apology I deserve. And even so, I move forward in peace. That's not weakness. That's emotional maturity. It's you growing enough to understand that not everyone will keep up with your evolution, and that's okay. Today, I want to invite you to do an exercise with me. Think of a situation that's draining you. A person you're trying to save. Convince, mold. Now say softly, I accept. I choose my peace. I'm not giving up. I'm setting myself free. You don't need to agree. You don't need to stay. You just need to stop fighting what is unchangeable. Mel Robbins precisely points out that the fear of acceptance usually comes from the fear of losing control. But here comes the hard truth. You never had control. You only had expectations. And expectations are not guarantees. Acceptance is the most beautiful way to let go, without losing yourself in the process. Acceptance is not giving up. It's choosing your peace over the eternal war of trying to change others. There's a confusion that's costing you dearly. You think acceptance is giving up, that letting go is surrendering, that allowing is weakness. But let me tell you, loud and clear, acceptance is an act of strength. Letting go is pure courage. Releasing is wisdom. Mel Robbins teaches that accepting people as they are doesn't mean approving their behavior. It means you've decided to protect your peace. If I accept this situation, I'm settling. If I don't fight for this relationship, I'm giving up. If I stop insisting, I'm being selfish. But what she reveals is the opposite. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is ending a pointless war that only you are fighting. when you try to change someone who doesn't want to change, when you insist on a relationship that has shown every sign it's not going anywhere, when you beg for attention, affection, respect, you are waging war against reality. And guess what? Reality always wins. You know what hurts more than letting go? Staying. Staying in cycles of hope and frustration. Staying, begging for emotional crumbs. Staying, trying to convince someone to see you, understand you, value you. Mel Robbins teaches that true liberation begins when you understand you don't have the power to change anyone. You only have the power to change yourself in the face of others' choices. In a talk, Mel shares the story of a woman who spent years trying to get her father to accept her career. He was cold, distant, critical. She called, emailed, did everything to please him. And with every attempt, she felt smaller. It was only when she heard the concept, let him be who he is, and stop trying to gain approval that never came, that something inside her broke. But also rebuilt. She didn't cut him off. She just accepted that he was who he was, and chose to stop begging for love. That choice brought a peace that years of effort never did. You're not giving up on the person. You're giving up on the illusion that they'll be different just because you want them to be. When you accept, you regain control of what really matters, your faki. Acceptance is stopping the reaction, stopping the resistance, stopping the desire for life to bend to your expectations. And when you do that, you feel a lightness that once seemed impossible. So today, try this. Take that name that steals your peace. That situation you mentally rehearse every day. That person who constantly lets you down. And softly repeat, let it go, let it be, let it do, let it leave, and come back home. Come back to yourself. Mel Robbins teaches that true emotional maturity isn't about controlling everything. It's about knowing what is worth your fight. And many times, your peace is on the other side of your resistance. The illusion of control. You're trying to manipulate life and losing the magic of uncertainty. You wake up and start planning everything. How people will act, what they'll say, how the day will unfold. And when something goes differently, frustration comes, anxiety, that feeling of nothing is under control. But what if I told you that the control you think you have is an illusion? And more, that this attempt to control everything is exactly what's killing your peace? Your need for control is, in fact, fear disguised as organization. It's not about wanting things in order. It's about not being able to handle the unpredictable, the chaos, the what if. You try to predict, monitor, calculate, influence. But deep down, you're just trying to escape the anxiety of not knowing what comes next. But let me ask you, since when does life need to follow your script to be good? Who said things only work out when they happen your way? Who convinced you that the uncontrollable is dangerous? When you try to control, you panic when something goes wrong. You get disappointed often because people never follow the script you created in your head. You live in a constant state of alert and don't even realize it's draining you. And the saddest part? You miss the beauty of the unexpected. You suffocate the magic of real life, the one that follows no plan. Mel shares about a phase in her life when every meeting, every family conversation, every trip was meticulously controlled. Claro. Aqui está a tradução completa para o inglês, sem mudar, tirar ou acrescentar nada. She used to tell herself, I'm being responsible. But inside, she was always on the verge of an emotional breakdown. It only hit her when she realized, I'm not being strong. I'm trying to control everything because I'm scared. Afraid of failing, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of not being enough. And it was in that moment she wrote one of the most important sentences in the book. Life doesn't need your control. It needs your presence. What you can do with this truth, you can. Keep trying to be the conductor of an orchestra that never rehearsed with you. Or you can let go of the baton and finally hear the music of now, turning point, retention trigger. You're so busy trying to control life that you haven't even realized real life is happening while you calculate. You're not living, you're managing. And guess what? You're exhausted. And still, nothing is under control. Understand, you have influence, not control. This is a key point in the book. There's a brutal difference between influencing and controlling. You can be an example, inspire, take care of yourself, set boundaries, but you can't guarantee someone will love you. Prevent someone from making mistakes, make someone change, force life to follow your plan. And the sooner you understand this, the lighter and more truthful your journey becomes. You've become the screenwriter of other people's lives. You expect people to act like the characters you created in your head. But that never happens. And every time someone goes off script, you suffer. You feel rejected, out of control, angry. But the truth is, you're suffering because you're trying to turn reality into a stage play. Uncertainty is where the magic happens. You didn't meet the love of your life when you planned to. The biggest opportunities came from unpredictable situations. The most memorable moments happened off schedule. So why do you still insist on controlling everything? Mel Robbins points out that the greatest gift you can give yourself is to stop fighting the unknown. Because when you let go of control, you create space to receive what you'd never have the courage to ask for. Today, I invite you to do an experiment. Choose an area of your life where you're trying to control too much. Relationship, work, your kids, other people's opinions. Write a simple sentence like this: I release the need to control situation. I choose to trust the process. Read it out loud 3 times. Today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. It will hurt at first, but then you'll start to feel something different. Peace, freedom, trust in yourself. Life is not an equation. It's a flow. And the more you try to control it, the less you live, the less you feel, the less you are. You call it maturity, call it empathy, call it wisdom. But let me tell you what's really happening. You're putting yourself last, again. You're calling strength what is actually fear of conflict. You're calling peace what is actually omission disguised as kindness. You're calling understanding what is at its core abandonment of self. And Mel Robbins is clear about this in the Let Them theory. Every time you silence your truth to maintain external harmony, you create internal chaos. You think you're being strong because you stay silent, because you swallow your pride, because you pretend you don't care, because you say, it's okay, when what you really want to scream is enough. But that's not strength. That's self-abandonment. Have you noticed how lately you're always exhausted, frustrated, a bit dimmed? It's because you're living someone else's life. You're molding yourself to other people's expectations. You're avoiding conflict, and in exchange, you're becoming a diluted version of yourself. And you know what else? That's not beautiful, not noble, not fair to you. Mel Robbins teaches that when you sabotage yourself to avoid discomfort, you're trading your authenticity for cheap approval, and that's never worth it. You say yes when you want to say no. You agree, just to avoid tension. You swallow unfair criticism just to preserve the relationship. But who's preserving you? The harmony you're trying to keep is killing you inside. It's a fake, superficial harmony where everyone seems happy, except you. And you know why? Because you created a version of yourself molded to please. A version that always yields, always understands, always is the mature one. But deep down, she's just begging to be heard, seen, respected. The truth is, you can't take it anymore. But you keep going because you're afraid of disappointing. afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being seen as selfish. And here comes the punch Mel Robbins delivers without anesthesia. The price of pleasing everyone is the loss of yourself. And in the end, no one really knows you, not even you. You're trying to be strong, but real strength doesn't lie in swallowing everything. It lies in standing up with love. It lies in saying, "This hurts me." It lies in choosing yourself, even if others don't understand. Mel Robbins says that loving others should never require that you stop loving yourself. You're not being strong, you're being convenient. You're becoming invisible, silently, and you know what hurts the most? People get used to it. They get used to you yielding, to you being silent, to you always being available. And one day, when you finally explode or collapse, they say, "Wow, but you were always so calm." No, you weren't calm. You were just betraying yourself in silence. Get out of relationships that demand your emotional nullification. You don't need to argue. You don't need to scream. You just need to show up, whole, real. And if someone is bothered by your truth, maybe the problem was never you. It was the role you accepted to keep everything peaceful. Every time you stay silent to keep the peace, you start a war within yourself. Enough. Enough of being the link that always gives in. Enough of being the emotional adult in every relationship. Enough of sinking in silence just to keep other people's boats afloat. You're not being strong. You're disappearing. And life is too short to live dimming your light. Have you noticed how much time you spend trying to fix others? You try to open the eyes of those who don't want to see, motivate those who don't want to move, teach those who don't want to learn. Control those who don't want to be controlled. You give advice, send videos, write texts, give speeches, but what about you? When was the last time you stopped trying to change others and started changing yourself? The more you try to change someone, the more you're running from your own transformation. Yes, it hurts to hear that, but it's freeing, because changing others is comfortable. You point, judge, try to adjust. But changing yourself requires courage, requires a mirror, requires action. And here's the truth. You're distracted trying to make someone more kind, more responsible, more loving, more present. Meanwhile, you keep being permissive, reactive, dependent on what the other does or doesn't do. You say, "I just wish he'd realize how much it hurts me. I just wish she'd value me more. I just wish they would change." And what are you doing with that pain? Are you waiting for someone to change? Or are you finally changing yourself? Because here's the real thing. You could spend your whole life trying to change someone's behavior and change absolutely nothing. But just one choice of yours, one change of yours, one boundary of yours can transform everything around you. Mel Robbins teaches, what you tolerate, you teach. What you change in yourself transforms your world. Your life isn't stuck because someone won't change. It's stuck because you're standing still, waiting for recognition, waiting for reciprocity, waiting for change. But what you need isn't to wait. It's to move. Because in the end, you only have control over one thing, your choices. And when you stop begging for others to change and start provoking transformation within yourself, the world around you responds. Seriously, if this video made you stop, if you felt like I was talking directly to you, then it's time to do something different. Like this video, not out of vanity, but because this simple gesture delivers this message to more people who need to hear it. Comment below. What change in yourself have you been postponing? Be honest. Write it for you, not for me. Share this with that person who keeps trying to change the world, but forgot to choose themselves. And if this content shook you, if it truly resonated, subscribe to the channel. Here, we don't talk about shallow motivation. We talk about real change, internal courageous. And remember this, you didn't come here to fix others. You came to build yourself and to live whole, authentic and free.